Good evening. Halloween is approaching, and I can think of no better way to spend an evening than to gather together around the fire with some close friends and tell some scary stories. And I hope you'll agree that this fire, these friends, demand a special kind of scary story. Not stories made to scare adults, nor stories made to scare children. Now, here, we will explore the gnawing, skittering horrors that drag their wretched bodies out of the vast chasm between adults and children. We talk about kids as innocent and carefree, but that is really just a kind of grown-up privilege. We think kids are carefree only because the things that haunt and terrify them are to us not real, just the shadow of a coat on a wall, the sound of the house settling, vinegar. No, really, yesterday Kid Nuke told Mom Nuke that vinegar is really dangerous. He said if you put your finger in vinegar, it might wrinkle, it might fall off, and then he said, the legends are true. So of course Mom Nuke dipped her finger in vinegar, and he started crying and made her throw the vinegar away. The child is 6 years old. So, let us not say that children are carefree. Let us say instead that the things that burden the mind of a child are different from those that burden the minds of adults. That's why we have ratings for media, to try to keep content away from kids that might disturb them, even if it's fine for adults. What we've learned as parents, though, is that it doesn't always work in the other direction. That is, kids' media is absolutely full of stuff that kids will never notice, but that, if you expose a grown-up to it dozens and dozens of times, might start to seep in, might start to seem off, might reveal a small, secret horror. Silly horrors, of course, nothing that would distress a child, and nothing that is, on its surface, particularly disturbing. But once it gets in your head, let me give you an example. When he was a toddler, Kid Nuke had a problem with biting. Among the ways we tried to help him stop doing that were a few books, including this book, Teeth Are Not for Biting. It's been more than 3 years since I first encountered this book, but it has carved a little hole in my mind that it will never crawl out of. True to form, the book explains all of the things that teeth are for, and emphasizes that one thing teeth are not for is biting other people. It gives a lot of other ideas about biting, things that you could do instead. Let's do this instead. Chew a chewy toy. Drink a cold drink. Get a hug. And then, how many teeth do you have? You can count them now. Someday, you will have 20. Wow, that's a lot, the kid says. But is it? Is it? Because adults have 32 teeth. So why does this book think my kid will never reach adulthood? Not just my kid, but every kid that reads it. Is it a veiled threat? Keep biting and you'll never see your second molars? Or is something coming for our children? This is what I mean. The small, thoughtless detail that has deep, dark implications. I assume you know my friends. Perhaps they're your friends too. I'm sure you know their stories, but do you know what haunts them? What's that, Miss Piggy? The truest nightmares need no teeth to terrify? Very well. I will tell them of the one you love, and of what he is becoming. Perhaps the strangest thing about the Muppets is how rarely the humans who interact with them seem to think them strange at all. That is, of course, the point of kids' media. The line between fantasy and reality is blurry, and things that might be scary in reality are soft and felt and friendly. Sam the Eagle, for example, isn't scary, but a bird that looked like Sam in real life would be like the shoebill stork, which looks like the bird that ends humanity. Horrifying, nightmarish, but nobody thinks Sam will swallow them whole. Nobody thinks Sam, for example, might vomit up his own spine if he's feeling a bit hot. People who interact with Muppets just seem to think that they're cool. And here's Dave Grohl with Big Bird, and Big Bird is like a big bird. Oh, okay. And then here are Dr. and President Biden surrounded by, well, what exactly? What is Elmo? Okay. The President of the United States is surrounded by monsters. But they're not scary, they're friendly. Like Miss Piggy. Here's Aubrey Plaza being interviewed by Miss Piggy, who's not, that's not Miss Piggy. What is that? What is that monster of vaguely anthropoid outline, but with an octopus-like head whose face was a mass of feelers, a scary, rubbery-looking body with prodigious claws on hind and fore feet? What is this creature with a form that only a diseased fancy could conceive. This pulpy, tentacled head surmounting a grotesque and scaly body. Oh, excuse me. That's not a description of Uncle Deadly. It's a description of Cthulhu. So, my point is that we should be more afraid of Muppets. And the Muppet we should fear the most is perhaps the one who seems most harmless. The one who has the most to hide. Because Kermit the Frog is not, in fact, a frog. Or, for that matter, a Muppet. You can see it in his eyes. No, really, look at his eyes. Specifically look at his pupils. Compare those pupils to the pupils of any other Muppet. No other Muppet has pupils like that. Monster, animal, or Muppet person. Well, sure, because he's a frog, you might say. If you were a fool! Because frogs don't have pupils like that either. Frogs have many different shapes of pupil, including horizontal, vertical, oblong, diamond-shaped, oval, and in some cases even heart-shaped. But I can find no reference to frogs with the bizarre Saturn-shaped pupils that Kermit displayed. And there is something else that looks like Kermit. H.P. Lovecraft's The Shadow over Innsmouth describes a town where the residents have a suite of distinctive characteristics the narrator refers to as the Innsmouth look. Creatures with the Innsmouth look tend to be thin and stoop-shouldered. They have strange creases or fringe at their necks. Their narrow heads have bulging, unblinking eyes. Their foreheads and chins recede, and they have singularly undeveloped ears. Behold, the Deep One. In The Shadow over Innsmouth, the narrator of the story slowly realizes that the denizens of that strange place are no longer fully human. They are hybrids, the results of long interbreeding with the Deep Ones, amphibious nightmares that live in vast cities beneath the sea. Is that strange to hear? A frog-like creature who mates outside their own species? Is that a thing we might find unsettling? Does it seem an improbable horror to imagine an amphibian who would breed with a mammal, produce offspring with them, and raise them up for some nefarious purpose? Perhaps you doubt. Perhaps you think that Zooey Deschanel is perfectly safe in this picture. She sure seems to. Terry Crews would not put us at risk. Look at his smile. But they do not know. They have not heard the call of the deep, but he has. In The Shadow over Innsmouth, the narrator describes a series of dreams that presage his realization that he himself is a descendant of the Deep Ones. He describes dreams in which the voices of the dead call him out into the black and endless depths of the sea. I hear and do strange things in sleep, he tells us, before realizing the stupendous and unheard of splendors of what he is becoming. Consider, therefore, the final verse of Kermit's eternal song, the thinly veiled paean to Father Dagon, the Rainbow Connection. Have you been half asleep, and have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Is this the sweet sound that calls to young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. As you can see, the evidence is more or less irrefutable. Soon Kermit will give himself to the black vastness of the abyss and join the Deep Ones in the splendor of many-columned Yonathlai, where he will await the day that the Shoggoth consume us all, for the glory of Cthulhu. In other words, someday he'll find it, the Eldritch Connection. The Deep Ones, Cthulhu, and he. Yes, Daniel? You too know someone who was called away from the world of reason. Well, where are they now? Eternally trapped in a kingdom of unending madness? You don't think that tale is too bleak for them to bear? Oh, if we must, then. I hope that everyone watching is familiar with the work of Fred Rogers, quite possibly the most diligently kind and compassionate person the human species has ever produced. Mr. Rogers taught generations of kids, including myself, to love each other, to love ourselves, to hope, to dream, to imagine, to understand, and to bridge the gaps of difference between ourselves and the people around us, no matter how wide those gaps may be. Unfortunately, Mr. Rogers passed away in 2003, leaving a legacy of love and respect in the heart of every person who was touched by his message, but also leaving a vacancy in a world that still badly needed that message. In 2012, Fred Rogers Productions, the company Mr. Rogers left behind, launched a project that would attempt to fill that vacancy, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. The show takes place in the neighborhood of make-believe, with the main characters of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood being the children of the puppet characters from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. The titular Daniel Tiger, for example, is the son of Daniel Striped Tiger, longtime friend of Mr. Rogers. Daniel's anxious friend O the Owl is the nephew of X the Owl, a puppet voiced by Rogers himself. King Friday, Lady Elaine, and of course Trolley all remain themselves. The only real difference is that while these characters were puppet size on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, they're human scale in Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. Or rather, we are their size. When Mr. Rogers and his friends visited the Kingdom of Make-Believe, they remained human size, and the people there were the size of puppets. Unlike them, when we visit Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, we're shrunk down to the size of a kid about Daniel's age, so that the puppet adults look like grown-ups. The magic of make-believe shows us what Fred Rogers truly was, a visitor to a world full not of puppets, but of thinking, feeling, speaking people, real and vital and independent. The denizens of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood are the same people that Rogers saw as puppets glimpsed darkly through the glass of make-believe. Except for one. Whatever process of make-believe transitioned us from the puppet kingdom of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood to the animated world of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, there was one character who did not survive it unscathed. One character who was altered inescapably in the process. One character who was cursed. There were a few humans that Mr. Rogers brought with him to the land of make-believe, but it seems Mr. McFeely was the only one who never escaped. How did Mr. McFeely end up cursed to live out his days as a puppet-sized human trapped in a cartoon world? Why is he still cursed to deliver mail eternally? What evil did he bring into the world to deserve this curse? I don't know the answers, but I can't stop thinking about the questions. Are you ready, Tigger? Yours is perhaps the greatest loss among us. Is it finally time to tell the story of your family? Together, then, we will warn them. The wonderful thing about Tiggers is Tiggers are wonderful things. Their tops are made out of rubber, their bottoms are made out of springs. They're bouncy, trouncy, flouncy, pouncy, fun, 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 fun. But the most mysterious thing about Tiggers is that he's the only one. The Pooh canon is inconsistent on the question of how exactly Tigger comes to be a part of the 100-Acre Wood.
Hello, I'm Tigger.
But he sings his song of introduction as early as The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, and more or less whenever he gets the chance after that. In adult media, the way Tigger is introduced would immediately raise questions. Hi, I'm Tigger, and I'm the last of my kind. We never see another rabbit, or Eeyore, or even Pooh Bear, but only Tigger is constantly pointing out that he's alone in the world. Tigger is Lonesome George, Tigger is Ishi, Tigger is Kal-El. And if it's ever occurred to you to wonder why Tigger is the only one, you're not alone. In 2000's The Tigger movie, Tigger is finally fully overtaken by his own loneliness, and he sets out to find his family at any cost, up to and including wandering blindly into a blizzard toward death and danger in the desperate hope that he will find his family. I will note here that this is not the horrifying part, this is just, run-of-the-mill kids media bleakness. Before that, though, Pooh and crew engage in an increasingly complex scheme to con Tigger into believing that he has a family. After they pose as Tigger's family in a letter, Tigger invites them to a family reunion, and so it is decided that a clinically depressed donkey, a bear, and 2 kangaroos will dress up as Tigger's family, which means they'll need costumes. But really, that's no problem because Kanga has everything they need to make Tigger costumes. She has what the hell is that, Kanga? Where did that come from? Kanga just happens to have bolts and bolts of Tigger skin, dozens of yards of Tigger skin, enough Tigger skin to drape every single animal in the 100-Acre Wood in Tigger hide and still have plenty left over.
What on earth are you doing?
Where did the Tigger skin come from, Kanga? Where did the Tiggers go, Kanga? In Piglet's big movie, the timeline is slightly different, and Kanga and Roo arrive in the 100-Acre Wood long after Tigger has been there. And when she arrives, they are horrified. They are terrified of this creature that has moved into their midst. They're convinced that she's gonna eat them all.
You'll be eaten for sure.
Were they wrong? It's no wonder Rabbit was so terrified of her when she first came to the wood. They knew exactly what had moved in next door. Surely, Kanga is the greatest horror in the 100-Acre Wood. What's that, Pooh? There's another? Something that even Kanga fears? Heffalumps and Woozles. Silly old bear. Everybody knows about them. They're only scary to kids. They just like... They what? Oh God. Okay. I see. Allow me to explain. I want you to think, just for a moment, about what you love most. What do you hold most dear? Amid the vast and vibrant panoply of your life, what do you prize above all else? It's no small question. Ponder it while I tell you about Heffalumps and Woozles. I'm sure you're familiar with them. Tigger casually mentions them to Pooh as creatures that steal honey.
What do they do? Oh, nothing much. Just steal honey. Steal honey?
Which clearly unsettles the poor bear. Pooh takes up arms to defend his home and treasure against these invaders, and they come to him in dreams that night, and they begin to consume. Heffalumps and Woozles are everywhere, it seems, up, down, and all around. Their means of attack are manifold. They can come and go as they please. They misdirect and con, and if that fails, they can multiply at will and take what they want by main force. They can shapeshift, they do not fear death, and they cannot be destroyed. That night, they eat all of the honey in Pooh's dream. And imagine what it might take to sate the appetite of something that can consume all the honey that Winnie the Pooh can dream of. And they leave him falling endlessly through a vast and empty space. This reminds me of a fear I used to have as a younger person. It started as a child, but I carried it with me long into adulthood. In the moments before sleep, I would imagine myself laying on my chest at the edge of a great chasm. I would imagine myself holding my mother by one hand and my father by the other, knowing that I couldn't help them both, and I must drop one to save the other. The characters would change from night to night, friends, girlfriends, grandparents, but always the choice. Can't save them both. Who do I love most? Forgive me, I don't know what brought that to mind. At Disneyland, Kid Nuke once made us ride the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh 3 times in a row, which is too many times. And each time we were thrust into Pooh's nightmares full of Heffalumps and Woozles, all endlessly, mindlessly, eternally consuming honey, and it was there, scrunched up on a ride vehicle not designed for a long-legged adult, that I heard as if for the first time the lines that gave me a glimpse into the true and horrible threat these monstrosities represent. If honey is what you covet, you'll find that they love it, because they guzzle up the thing you prize. Do you see it yet? Heffalumps and Woozles do not steal honey, or rather, they steal honey only because it is Pooh Bear they have chosen to haunt. They do not want honey. They hunger only for that which you love. Have you decided yet on what you prize? What will they eat if they visit you? Or who? I can tell you this much. Now, when I imagine myself on that cliffside, my son clinging desperately to one hand, my daughter dangling from the other, their pleading wails a hatchet in my hindbrain, we are no longer alone. Now, there's a Woozle behind us, glistening maw agape, grinning and slavering and waiting for my choice. So, let us take a moment and be thankful, shall we, for this willy-nilly silly old bear, for his pure, simple, unfailing love for honey, for his own insatiable hunger, his tumbly so rumbly as to fill every cranny of his subconscious with golden sweetness, for the limitless plenty of his mindscape, so full of his beloved honey as to keep these unheralded terrors trapped forever in the smorgasbord of his imagination. Whatever it is you love most, you cannot possibly love it as much as Pooh loves honey. I cannot love my children as much as Pooh loves honey. And thank God. And thank you, Pooh Bear, for your sacrifice Perhaps none of us will sleep easy tonight. Certainly not I, in the uneasy knowledge that my son's days and teeth are both numbered, nor Kermit with his restless dreams stretching toward the glory of his city beneath the sea. Not the sole real man imprisoned among figments, and not the endling sleeping so close to the killer of all he ever loved. But we will all sleep peacefully compared to Pooh Bear, for all Pooh's dreams are nightmares, and he suffers them for us. Hold your loved ones close tonight, friends, and pray that Pooh's hunger is never sated. Good night.
Terrifying, isn't it?